of those who've converted subsequently to the extras and XA 41s and 42s and the like will no doubt know that this still remains a favourite toy to play with if you can. And it takes us right back to all those wonderful teams we had here in Great Britain in the 70s, and the likes of Brian Lacombe, who made aerobatic flying what it is today. And Richard, however, came through a different methodology. He was a Royal Air Force pilot, very much got the DNA in his blood from his father, who was the Royal Air Force Hunter display pilot for many years. Richard flew the Tornado and then went into commercial flying before getting the itchy bit that he needs to scratch, which is of course all about doing something different to weekends in your time off. So now you can see what he does with this aircraft. It's pinwheels, cartwheels, Lomchevacs, all thrown in to a very small bit of airspace, and all done at stunning speeds and activities. Going up here, the first of the Lomchevac, as of course a Czechoslovakian cocktail, but hovering now and not quite going into the full. He didn't have the jets there to enable him just to keep into that full hover position, but letting the power of the aircraft, and this is all about energy management. We're using also the height and the speed of the aircraft to add to the power that the engine is giving you, to give you the energy to pull up into yet another defying manoeuvre. Willie hanging on now, he's going through the full loop routine, but tumbling it on the top there, a couple of flick rolls right at the top end. This aircraft very much modified by Richard himself, built from scratch over a period of four years, based on the S2S aircraft, but incorporating a whole load of different modifications, particularly the size of the wing with massive ailerons, giving it a huge wing area and a phenomenal roll rate, as well as a better low speed handling envelope to work in. What he refers to as the muscle biplanes, you may recall his red and white Union Jack aircraft G Whiz that he flew for many years here. This one now, very much the efforts of his own work and design. Is very committed, very passionate engineer as well as a pilot, and he has really taken this to new heights, literally just letting the aircraft fall through its own smoke there, descending down, keeping it under control, trying to get, I mean, he's virtually at zero forward speed there, but can't quite get the hover. The heart of it is a massive, great 6-cylinder, 8.5 litre Lycoming 540 engine, of course, with the added smoke as well to give that effect. Towering it up again until he literally bleeds off every knot of the airspeed that he has available to him, and you can see him drifting there in the strong wind as well. Probably a little bit bumpy coming over Beachy Head at the same time, but well, it's nothing compared with what he's doing with the aircraft himself. A bit like jumping in a washing machine and putting it on fast spin. Do not try this at home. You can see there the massive size of those wings and the large area it gives him compared to the ordinary ones. Very fast spin rate. And of course you need to train hard physically for this sort of work as well as technically in the aircraft. This is not something that comes easy. You have to build up resistance to it and what we call a G tolerance, because the variation of G is so sudden. You can go from plus 6 to 7 G to minus 1 or 2 literally in a microsecond. So it can be absolutely exhausting work, but it's certainly thrilling, very exciting indeed. But you can see he's really boosted the capability and added to his own unique style of aerobatics. Not everybody gets the chance to fly completely unlimited, and the years of competing help to do that. Every opportunity he takes to avoid flying in a straight line, he certainly does. So diving down now, inverted, you're pushing the stick now, and that will increase the amount of negative G Now imagine what you've got at the moment is 1G standing upright. Push the weight down on your feet and against your head, and that is really, really hard on the body and on the brain. The early years of aerobatic flying these particular aircraft made famous crossing the States by a lady called Betty Skelton. She had an aircraft she called the Little Stinker, and that's the result of the little painted motifs that were on most of the early Pitts biplanes. Curtiss first started design on these back in '42. Powered by a very small 90 horsepower Franklin engine, first flying in 1944, and then really coming to its own in the 60s and 70s as a truly competitive aircraft. Max speed of around 200 miles an hour, stalling speeds around 55, but as you can see from this, with the extra power, massive grade engine there, being able to hold it in the air with a relative amount of ease. Extreme limits in this one, plus or minus 6G. And again, these competitive pilots flying these small light aircraft do not have the G suppression equipment that you get on the likes of the Typhoon. The other advantage that these guys has, as opposed to many of the military pilots, is they have a stack of maneuvers in their head, which they have been authorized to use, and then they adjust their display during the course of the conditions that they're facing at the time. So the wind speeds, the direction of the wind, of course the turbulence, and the cloud base, all having a variable factor on what he does.
Well, when it was me that played that, I remember this year, and basically, they still display. You couldn't see them, but all you could hear them.
There might be some.
Like 5 hours later, we eventually said, no more flying. Somerset. Oh, they were lovely with Jane loved that. John Remain and his team.
Tony to De Bruyne in the OV10 Bronco. Brilliant machine, this. Incredibly flexible. It looks perhaps benign, but I can assure you it's not.
This big. This is more big.
Very famous, very much during the Vietnam War, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, and very potent, very flexible aircraft as well. Essentially, it's, as you can see, turboprop powered aircraft, a light attack and observation aircraft developed in the 1960s for counterinsurgency, and one of its primary missions was as a forward air controller, particularly during the course of the Vietnam War. Powered by two Garrett engines, 750 horsepower each, could fly not quite up to 300 miles an hour, but not far off, with a service ceiling of 30,000 feet. 1965.